Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Rise with Sarah Sincotta. I am your host, Sarah. Today, I have the magnificent Therese Oneill, who is a business coach, an award-winning mentor, and international as well. Thank you so much, Therese, for joining me today. It's an absolute pleasure having you here.
Delighted to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Sarah.
So great to catch up with you, and you're always a delight, and you are just always glowing. I love it, Therese.
It's the colour.
It's you. And I can say that because I know you personally. But Therese, I do know you very well. But for those that do not know you, or perhaps being introduced to you for the first time, who's Therese?
Thank you. Well, I'm a very loud and colourful lady, as you can probably tell, and unapologetically so, Sarah. And I think that's because and in case people might pick this up from the accent, I grew up in Queensland. And I grew up in colour, and I grew up with a mother that was very colourful. I've just been up there, and I noticed that my brother, like every day, has like the loudest pair of shorts on that you could ever see. So I think for me, there was no escaping colour creeping back into my authentic life. Another part to that too is so then I can cop some criticism from that because, as you know, so as a business coach and a mentor, predominantly I'm involved in the finance industry, and that is traditionally been quite a conservative but changing industry, and it was always yes. So perhaps a bit of criticism about that, but today I own it. And in fact, I probably doubled down on the bold and the color and the hairstyle and the big earrings and everything. And because I feel good about that. But also, I think it's also showing, in many ways, showing leadership for emerging, perhaps young, not just women, but men in our industry. And if they can see me on stage owning it and looking like this and not looking like a traditional banker, then it gives them permission to express their personality. And also leadership. I have got young adult children, and it's also really and super important for me as a role model to demonstrate and show that you can be your true authentic self. You still absolutely are respectful, but there's no reason that you can't express yourself your way, as long as you don't cause harm to others.
I love that.
Yes. So that's a little bit about me, and more so over the last couple of years, post-COVID, of course, after the Melbourne lockdown, is really getting up more on stage and delivering keynote topics, but on perhaps uncomfortable subjects, but really important. I always say I've got important things to say, and I need a stage to say it.
Yeah. Love that, Therese. And I love everything you're about. And I've actually had the honor hearing you speak and present multiple times now. And the energy you bring is fabulous. And one thing that you really said just before is that you own it. And I feel like, it is happening more and more where people are leaning into who they are and actually owning it. And I remember, Therese, when I was a business development manager of a particular corporate business, we had charcoal as our uniform. And I'm sure people listening are going to resonate to this. I absolutely hated it, Therese. Hated it because I didn't feel good. And in turn, I thought that I didn't look good. And then it impacted how I showed up, the energy that I had. So I was a bit of a rebel, Therese. I actually used to then wear black and steered into the black. And I did get some written warnings because of that, but it's just really important, I think, now that we just address that as we are individuals and we need to be able to own who we are and be comfortable in who we are. You agree with that, I'm assuming?
Totally agree with that.
Yeah.
And Sarah, as you know too, it's also so that's great. So have everybody in grey. So that's a great way to control, because you don't have, this is my belief, because you don't have faith and trust that your employees are smart or responsible enough to dress appropriately. So I think it's a bit insulting. And yeah, so I definitely, but it's changing them. If you think about the millennial market, which will be over 50% of the workforce, and also buying consumers, from now in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
They're colourful, right? They're not necessarily colourful, but they are themselves, and they are probably less trusting of a brand that needs to have that sort of control over their staff.
I love this. I love it when we talk about things like this, Therese, and always love your perspectives and your beliefs and opinions. And, we've all got it, but I really like that you just use that message of millennials and the new generations coming to the workforce. And I think we really need to understand, what they want as well, and what they're happy with, and what's them going to make them happy in a workplace, so that they can show up themselves and really feel themselves.
Yeah, it's going to be, and I can talk from the finance industry too, because it has such such a conservative sort of background. Because if you don't get jiggy with millennials and what they are valuing and wanting from employers, you won't have any staff in about 5 years. Yeah. So you can all demand that they're in from 8:30 to 5:30, back in the office 5 days a week. Yeah. Wearing the uniform. So you can hang on to that as much as you like, but in a short period of time, you won't have anybody that wants to work for you.
And that's relevant to the real estate industry as well, Therese, especially in property management, because we've had a massive exodus, and it's still happening right now. Anyone can go on Seek and you can see how many positions are available. I actually know 2 great business development managers who have just resigned in the last week because of that control and that micromanaging, and their leaders not understanding what their wants and needs and goals are, and being able to express themselves within the business. So I think it's across the board in every industry, not just, the finance or real estate. I think we're going to see that more and more. And we got to find that balance too, I think, though, Therese, right? Because we don't want people, taking advantage of and just thinking they can do whatever they want. Otherwise, everyone would just have their own businesses, right? So that they've got free reins and do whatever they want. But it's finding that balance and being respectful of each other.
Well, and the word here, Sarah, is compromise. Yes, you go, I'm happy to come into the office, but I don't want to come in 5 days. As the employee, you go, well, it's really important that we go, so what's a compromise? Can we do 38 hours over a fortnight and give you 1 day off? Is that a compromise that we can come to? Yeah. So I think that's the word, I think, that's going to be really important over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I love that. I completely agree. And leading into that, Therese, and why I wanted you to join in, because a lot of my audience is business development managers, property managers, and business owners within the real estate industry. And there's a big crossover between the finance industry and the real estate industry, because we all work, or should be working, really closely together. But there has been a theme that I have seen from either having conversations with people online or clients or from business owners, and that is the word imposter syndrome. So you are the best person to cover this, and this is one of the topics that I love hearing you speak about. But for those that perhaps aren't really aware what imposter syndrome is, how would you define it?
So I would define it as so it's an internalized belief. So you really, really feel it in your heart that your success is due to luck or some other external factor, anything but your intelligence, your skills, and your qualifications. And so when you feel, and this is a very, very prevalent feeling, especially amongst high achievers, but if you have that feeling that it is luck or it's some other external force, then what happens is you start to feel like you're a fraud. And you live in this heightened and constant sense of fear and anxiety about very soon this is all going to be exposed. I'm going to be shamed. People are going to then know that I tricked them into, letting you look after my property or letting you look after my mortgage. And then what happens, you find it is incredibly debilitating. That then can lead to anxiety, and without appreciating, right? So as humans, we've got these amazing brains, hey, but these brains, have good and bad. And on the bad side, we are all flawed. And I suppose at my age, bloody oath, I know that, right? But that doesn't detract from me as a human, and it doesn't detract from my performance on stage or my performance in helping and coaching businesses. So I think the thing with imposter syndrome is we hang on to this, and we're actually incapable of of not internalizing it. So because what we do, we know ourselves really well, right? In those moments before we go off to bed, or that day where you yell at the kids and you know you really shouldn't have. Yeah. So everybody does that. And I think so we know our own failings really, really well, but we only know others superficially or from the stories that they tell or what they share with us. So and so everybody's flawed, especially prevalent for women too. And what happens is we don't believe that we earn this success, right? And so and social media doesn't help, Sarah, because as I say, no one posts their 3-star review, right?
Yeah.
All we do is post the 5-star reviews. So we get a 4.5 review, and we freak out because that's not what we're seeing on social media. And also I say, so I don't look like this when I wake up in the morning either. Yeah. This takes a lot of work. I am not going to put on my morning wake up face and put that on my social media. So I think we just need a little bit of perspective too with all of that.
Yeah. A couple of things, Therese, that you said is, and I think that, really when we can understand ourselves, and I think this is still a lot of work that people need to do. And that's why I integrate in my training, and I'm sure you do the same, that personal and professional development, because it's equally as important. We need to understand who we are as individuals, our strengths, our weaknesses, the highs, the lows, and really use that to our advantage. Therese, you saw the other day, I did a vulnerable post on my LinkedIn because I know that people will only see a certain image or perception of me that they have made up from what I choose to share.
Yes.
And there was a lot of things that I hadn't shared, and I was inspired to share my story, which I think I do pretty well and keep it real, as do you, because we only see the things we want people to see. But it's just as equally important to talk about that shit day that you've had. Or perhaps there was a client who was really challenging and testing, because this is when we become real, when we own who we are and we own our story and we own our journey. And that encourages other people to do the same, right? I'm like you, Therese. I'm not going to share, me first thing in the morning with no makeup on. However, I definitely don't look like this either in the morning. But at least we can admit that, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, we have that awareness, and we can perhaps share, on our stories or through social media, like, hey, I don't look like this. There's a story I probably haven't shared yet, but I got my nose done like 8 years ago, right? I'm not ashamed of it. There's not many people that would know that because I haven't shared it publicly, but it's something that I did, right? To make me feel good. I did it for myself, right? And I feel like, well, now I'm sharing with everyone because I'm not ashamed to share that. I'm owning who I am.
I think, and there's a saying, and I don't know where it comes from, which is you're only as sick as the secrets you keep. And I think there's something very liberating, about sharing all of this with other people. It all of a sudden it doesn't matter.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. So how prevalent is imposter syndrome? Like, how many people would be experiencing this?
Every other person.
Yeah.
So, YouGov in the States did a survey that was back in June 2022. Atlassian's done studies, as well as the original academics that in 1978 that coined the phrase. So it's pretty much, it does vary, but conservatively it would be somewhere between 42 and 49% of respondents have admitted to suffering imposter syndrome at some stage during their career. So I would go, if I'm talking to a room of 100 people, I can put a line down the middle. I go, half of you have got it and the other half don't, but you're probably working with, married to, or managing somebody that is experiencing feelings of imposter syndrome. So, and I actually think that's the most empowering thing for people to know, because we think it's just us.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I think that's really that's really powerful to know that.
Definitely.
And it's very easy to say everybody suffers from it, get over it. That's not as easily said as done, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sure. So what would be typically some triggers for this feeling and the thoughts of, imposter syndrome?
So if I can, so there's sort of 5 personality types that are pretty susceptible to imposter syndrome. And this is just our own brain, a physiologic, how we are actually born. And then some of it is absolutely environmental.
Mm-hmm.
And in the 5 types, so there's the people pleaser. And I think some of us could go, we've got elements of all of this. But with the people pleaser, with imposter syndrome, it's like really, really important that everybody likes you. And we all know, right? I think I'm a pretty nice person. There are people that don't like me, and that's okay.
Mm.
But as a people pleaser, everybody needs, and you're desperate to get everybody's approval and acceptance. But it's not because you trust their judgment, right? It's because they're less likely to call you out for the fraud that you know that you are if they like you. So a people pleaser is one. And I always say, so growing up in Queensland in the 70s with a Catholic family, this is in my DNA. So this is how I was raised. So for me, that's something that I have to constantly work on and be at peace with the fact that somebody doesn't like me because they don't like the twang, because I sometimes swear, and it's okay if swearing is a non-negotiable for you. But I don't need to change me. It's okay.
Yeah.
Then the other very susceptible personality type that we would all recognize is the perfectionist. And then that goes to the control thing, right? Of everybody needs to wear charcoal and a matching uniform. And, and maybe with some companies too, and you can't actually have a social media account because you need that control. So a perfectionist, right? So you've got this huge long list, of what constitutes wrong, like wearing black, but only one way of it being right. So that's your way. So exemplary performance, high standards, 100% perfect outcome all the way, all the time. Your way, or it's simply not good enough. That is somebody else. Because you know what? You and your team, can you imagine with this sort of personality type and suffering from imposter syndrome, which only exaggerates all of this? And can you imagine the workplace culture that goes along with that? And then people leave, and they're not leaving because you'll maybe have imposter syndrome and a need to control. What you're saying is they're leaving because they're not good enough.
Yeah.
And I had this conversation the other day with regards to cleaners. So if you're a perfectionist, I go, you know what? I like that Tracy comes every fortnight and cleans my house. Do I care whether she dusts every bench space? Do I care if she misses a bit when she does the vacuuming? It absolutely doesn't matter. So that's another personality type. Then you've got the overworker, Sarah. So with the and my dad was one of those people, right? So he could work 14 hours a day. Crazy. Died at 63. That's usually what can happen later in life if you work too hard.
Yeah.
But the overworker, so hard work, over preparation, long hours, that's your default strategy. So, and to avoid being intimidated by other property managers, other people in the real estate or the finance industry that are up there and winning awards, who are clearly, of course, smarter and better and more accomplished than you are. So you believe the only reason you haven't become exposed is because what you can do and what you can trust is your ability to work harder than everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So that's also very common, especially with entrepreneurs too.
Yeah, for sure.
Sarah?
Yeah.
Then you have the procrastinator. So we all procrastinate. That's fine. But if procrastination is something that you do with every single task, every new thing that you need to jump on, every new client, prospectus or that you need to put together, if that is debilitating you every single time you do that, then you have imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is very common. Okay, so this is the self-diminisher. So you over-focus on all your mistakes. So you get 1,000 5-star reviews. One asshole gives you a 3-star review. And you take that totally out of perspective. What you say, if you've got imposter syndrome, you go, there it is. There's the 3-star review that I deserve. Yeah. Everybody else I've tricked. Yeah. So here you go. This is the start of it. This is the start of the decline. And then what you do if you suffer from imposter syndrome is you stop asking people to give you the
Reviews.
Yeah. And so, and every failure that you have, and again, if you think about the life of an entrepreneur too, or business, it's up and down, right?
Yeah.
But then you just focus on the downs and you go, why am I even doing this? Without actually appreciating that 97.5% of your week was freaking remarkable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if I can give you an example of that, just because I coach brokers, as a really good example of imposter, this is what I see most often. So I'm a residential mortgage broker. I sell home loans to people that are buying residential properties. What I know is at the moment, actually the biggest movement of funds is now in commercial and business finance. So that's great. So that's the trend. So, but I'm sitting here and I go, okay, I understand you've sold me on the why I need to look at expanding my skills. So I go and I take a course and I learn how to write commercial loans so that it's great. And I study really hard and I do really well. And then I put it out there on the interweb that I'm now doing commercial loans. And then I get my first freaking lead. And now imposter syndrome kicks in, right? It's almost like I'm just, be careful what you ask for. Oh my God, here we go. Here's a commercial opportunity. Oh my God, I can't believe they're trusting me to do this. Now, the client has no idea that you're new to commercial lending. You're the problem here. Yeah. And so what you do is you tend to overcompensate. So you go, I know that there's 47 commercial lenders on there, and each of those 47 commercial lenders have got 10 different products. So I need to be across all 470 of them, and there's no way I can put anything to the client. So now I'm procrastinating because, geez, I've only got 30 options for the client instead of 470. Well, I better do a little bit more research. And then at the same time, you're going, there is so much I don't know. And you spend weeks putting this together, and all of a sudden you go, that client, that was a week ago. I haven't done anything. So you just suck it up and then you get something over to the client. But you go, as soon as I send this through, I know I'm not going to hear back. I just know. And then, bing.
You hear back.
If that client takes 48 hours to get back to you, you're defeated already. Yeah. And they're with that a business to run, and they've got life that goes on, and 48 hours is not an unreasonable time to accept, to get a response.
Yeah.
So then that comes in, and then they go, yes, let's go ahead. So you go through and you lodge the application and you hit submit, knowing it's going to be declined. And then the whole time you're worrying about how you're going to explain this to the client, and you say, I knew I should have sent them straight to the Commonwealth Bank. Knew it. Knew I should have sent them down the road to Joe, who's an experienced broker. So this is all going on. And then you get that email through to tell you that it's been approved. And you say, how lucky am I? And then you say, yeah, but it hasn't settled yet. So you keep looking, yeah. So that's imposter syndrome, yada, yada, yada. Goes forward, the loan settles. Now you're waiting for the client's 3-star review to come through. And yeah, so that would be imposter syndrome cycle. Then the client's so happy with you, they go, hey, thanks for the good job on that. We've moved into the factory. It's great that we're now, owners and not renters. And by the way, can you help us with some finance for a new computer system? And then the whole thing starts again.
It's again.
Yeah.
So I think everyone listening would be resonating with this, especially the real estate industry and the BDMs, because I can put my hand up for sure that has happened, for sure. And there's so many parts in that. And you just took us through a journey on when and how it can happen. And the thing is, Therese, is that a lot of people aren't consciously aware that that is happening.
Yeah. So it's that, yes, Sarah, that's exactly right. So, if I think about breaking the imposter syndrome cycle, it's got to start with recognizing that this is not okay. So, and so then breaking the cycle, right, is focusing on the facts, acknowledging the feelings, but focusing on the facts. And if I look at that example that I just went through there, the facts are, the client got the loan that they wanted. It settled on time. They gave you a 5-star review and they came back for more business. Everything else that was spiraling around in your head are feelings and not facts.
Yeah.
And sometimes sometimes it can help to write those down. And then sometimes you can't do that. I know that if imposter syndrome for you is really, really bad, sometimes it can be difficult to be able to isolate those facts. So if that's the case, so sharing your feelings in a safe space with somebody that is empathetic and understands can help a lot, because what you'll find, we know what the statistics are. So if I share a really shitty day with you and tell you about how I felt about putting that transaction or what that journey looked like for me for 2 years, all of a sudden you'll share with me, go, I actually have the same feelings. It's called imposter syndrome. And what happens if I'm unable if I myself am unable to extract the facts from the feelings, then you would help me.
Yeah, for sure.
Somebody externally can say, hey. And the thing with feelings, sharing your feelings too, is all of a sudden it's like it just lightens that load. It weakens those feelings. It can weaken their hold on you. And the thing with feelings, as we know, because we're both very champions too in the mental health space, across the board, fear and shame has not done good things for our mental health over the years. And what I am absolutely loving at the moment is this groundswell of brave and courageous people like yourself, Sarah, that are going, I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to share my feelings. And then that normalizes it for everybody.
Yeah.
And if I see you doing that and I'm trapped in my own negative thoughts, I can sit there and go, that's a woman that gets it. I can phone and talk to her.
Yeah. Yeah. And we all need that community, right, Therese? Like we need to be, and I think this is the other thing you mentioned earlier. One of the things can be our environment when it comes to imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And we've all heard that, you know, the 5 people that you spend the most time with is, you know, generally you'll become and pick up those traits. So, and predominantly a lot of us will be spending time at work. So it's really important to assess our environment and also make sure that we're not allowing other people's energy, beliefs impact what our beliefs are and our energy. I think that's also really important, because then you can start getting that imposter syndrome based on what someone else has said, not what is factual to you.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you just gave some, you know, really good strategies, and look, I think that's why everyone needs a coach and a mentor, right, Therese, because you can help unpack that, talk about it, and everyone needs, I call someone who will pump their tires up, right? So if you are having a down day, or if you are doubting yourself, that you know you can call someone who will listen if you want to, but also give you guidance and say, hey, Therese, you are wonderful. You are amazing. You are a powerful woman. You know, remember, you know, what you went through the last year. Look at how far you have come. You did this, right? We all need someone in our corner like that. And community is a massive factor and a contribution to our lives.
Oh, absolutely. And there's also, and again, this is, and reframing your thoughts too is another really great strategy for imposter syndrome. And again, if you're struggling to get there yourself, so go to your tribe.
For
the
sure.
ones your supporters. So so in that example, you can reframe. So I don't have the experience, I can leverage my existing skills. I'm going to make a mistake becomes you learn so much from making mistakes. And again, that then comes to the environment, Sarah. So if your workplace, if you're working for somebody that is a perfectionist, to the nth degree, that's a gaslighter because you're not doing anything right, then you need to get out of there. Because how many world greats absolutely stuffed it up and learnt so much before they moved ahead. And so I think they're really important. Reframing those thoughts too are really, really important, because if you've successfully learned one skill, you can successfully learn another.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't need to be perfect either. So Steve Jobs says, better to do than perfect. I have stopped getting hung up on somebody coming back and saying, it's a typo in paragraph 3 of the thing. Go, whatever, I'm not redoing it, right? Go, it matters to you. It's great that you picked it up. I am not going to go back and resend this email out now because there's one error. It's fine. And I always say too, so, I mean, what's the painter of the Sistine Chapel? So, Leonardo da Vinci, right? Amazing painter. But I'm sure the first crack he had at pointing paint on canvas was not brilliant.
Yeah.
But every time he painted, he got better.
Yeah. And I hear, recently I had someone say, how can I compete with this person who has been doing the job for 12 years and they're new to the industry? And I was like, but we go through, like what we said, the cycle, but this happens, but it's this self-doubt that came in, and I could hear that. But if we, like what you said, back ourselves and own who we are, keep investing in ourselves, our development, our skill sets, retraining our brain, mindfulness practices, I think is very, very important for all of us to, and I'm a massive advocate on, and I've spoken about this numerous times now, but how you start your day, T, and you shared yours the other day, but it was great start to your day that you do. meditation, doing the things that light you up, journaling, right? Is taking the time out to also be alone with your thoughts as well. Like, be alone with them so you can understand what's going on. Like, I think that's really important, because we get caught up in this busy mentality. Like, we're busy doing this, our day's getting busy. And if we don't take the time to just stop and pause and reflect, then we're not consciously being aware of the thoughts that come in.
Correct.
Right. And that's controlling us then without us even realizing it. So I think
absolutely
mindfulness plays a massive part. But I would love to discuss, especially for real estate professionals, because, it is, there are a lot of pressures, externally. And there is, I found it's changing again, but this, we need to look at our competitors are doing, and we need to, be better than our competitors. And, oh, well, they're doing this, but we're not there yet. So in your opinion, how can we really take control of those situations and with ourselves?
Yeah. And okay. So I taught brand new startup entrepreneur brokers from 2008 to 2018. So I had this constantly. Like, what am I going to say when they ask me how long I've been broking? I said, they will never ask you. Yeah. So I go, we're spending all this energy, on something that people will just assume, that you are an expert. So I think that's the one thing I would say to real estate professionals too. I know that you've been there 2 minutes, but nobody else does. And then I think that I'm a big one on frameworks and tools.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling nervous and you're feeling anxious and you're very aware that you're brand new. So first of all is I go, people will not ask you. So what is it that you can have in a toolkit that can give you some confidence when you feel like you might be caught out? So in that case, it might be, so have a nice presentation pack, take them with you to an event, have a service guarantee, have the about me, have all of that stuff in there. Again, they won't know that, but you can look like you are somebody that is super well established and polished and professional, and you could blitz over anybody that might have been in the industry 20 years with a super great presentation pack. Dress so that you're comfortable and that you're confident. Have a name badge on. You can go and get them done at freaking Officeworks, right? So get that. So all of a sudden, you don't need to be the most experienced person in the room, right? I just say you need to be the most memorable. And if you are nervous, another great thing that I suggest to anybody that's going there is, if you're at an event where there's going to be other competitors from your industry, get there 5 minutes early. I guarantee you'll be one of the first 10 to get there, and then offer and then volunteer to help at the event. There is nobody that runs an event that will ever decline an assistance for help. Let me help man the registration desk. Let me take people and show them where the bathrooms are and the exits and do all of that. It's a great way for you to meet every single person.
Yeah.
You're helping them out, and you'll be memorable because they will say, who was that nice lady with the brown hair? Yeah. That made me feel so welcome when I arrived at the event. You get to meet everybody. When you mix and mingle later, there's a rapport that's already been built. They are not going to ask you if you're brand new.
Yeah.
So I think there are some things that you can, they would be a couple of really important things that would be my advice to somebody that's in the real estate industry, new BDM. Do that, mate. Fool everybody.
Yeah. Even experienced BDMs, Therese, because I know some BDMs have been doing it for 20, 30 years, and they're not networking yet. So, not just for the newbies, it's for the experienced ones as well. Hey, the last thing that I would love to get your opinion on is if we're looking at imposter syndrome and also then looking at confidence
Yeah.
and how these two can play against each other, because we can be or feel a confident person, but then have imposter syndrome, or also
Yes.
have imposter syndrome and not feel like a confident person. So how do you see these play against each other?
Yeah, because you sort of, I suppose, intellectually, you sort of think that they're mutually exclusive.
Mm.
But you have a look at, if I go high achievers, that prevalence is much higher. So they're actually, two parts of the same coin, I would say.
Mm.
Yeah. And it's, you know what? So as you know, right, I've got a favorite song. So when my confidence does feel a bit shattered, and it does, and that, you know, from time to time, that freaking song by Demi Lovato, if I belt that out and I sing, and there is something liberating now, and you know, I've also got that other saying, if you can speak, you can sing. Belting that song out, for me, I think you need to find your thing, but belting that song out for me is just restores my confidence in about 1 minute.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yep. I always say to my clients, have your pump up song. You know, if it's before you're making your calls, or before you're going to an appraisal, or before you're going to an event, or perhaps it's actually going to do something you don't necessarily want to do, put on your favorite song that makes you feel good, because automatically your energy changes, right?
Absolutely.
There's something so beautiful with music, and how it's designed to make us feel a certain way, right? And Therese, we've you know, shared videos to each other on our socials, and you know, we've sung the haters gonna hate many times, because it's just when you just, I think, believe in yourself, you know, have confidence, but also do the necessary things that you need to do to make sure that you feel good, right? And if these thoughts come through, then just like you said, acknowledge them. And is that a fact, or is that just something that's coming through, right? What are you telling yourself to be true to yourself?
Yes.
And lastly, any final advice or encouragement for any real estate professionals who might be struggling with imposter syndrome at the moment?
Yeah, talk to Sarah. So no, we really, so everything that I said about acknowledge that you have it, separate facts from feelings, and find your goddamn tribe, right? It's so important, Sarah. And I think the thing with imposter syndrome, where we go, I feel unworthy, I feel like I've fooled everybody into being here. Sometimes we don't ask for help because of that.
Yeah.
I can't ask Sarah, look at her, she's perfect, or I can't ask, you know, Jane or Anne, because why would they want to help me? And that's all part of the imposter syndrome cycle. Find those people.
Yeah, for sure.
I have conversations, all the time, and usually it's usually when they're phoning me to say, can I just run something by you? And it's always a problem. And then you give that perspective.
Yeah.
And I won't let them get off the phone until I can hear, that they feel lighter.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got my go-to gal. She'll know who she is listening to this. But there was even a situation that happened last week, Therese. And, you know, I had a lot of things going on in my head, and I just needed to voice it, right? And in that moment, it's then when you really unpack everything and getting someone else's view on it. Because we can be our harshest critics on ourselves too. So it's just having someone to talk to and be like, am I overreacting? Is this just in my head? You know, am I making this up? And just being able to have someone that can really support you and encourage you and just talk it out and flesh it out. I think that's really important.
Yeah. And sometimes too, with that, so if you're super successful and involved in a lot of transactions, then the probability is, that there's going to be a complaint, or there's going to, or there's going to be, it's just the commercial reality. And I always say to somebody, if they go, oh my God, I got a 4-star review, I go, that's not a bad review. Let me read you out some reviews. And I go straight onto the Medicare website and read any number of those top reviews. I go, that's a bad review.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to check out this.
Yeah. Oh, that'll always make you feel better.
Oh, there we go. Last
the only business in the world that is still in business with, I think it's a 2.3 average,
Wow.
Google review rating.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Therese, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Your energy is phenomenal as always. And look, if anyone is listening, I highly recommend Therese for a keynote speaking. She's phenomenal. Thank you so much, Therese. I'm sure that so many people are going to get great takeaways from today, and I will pop your details below if people would like to connect with you as well.
Thank you, gorgeous. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I love talking about this.
Oh, thank you, lovely. And true Sarah Sincotta style, everyone, keep rising.